CP014401. Recording length 08 minutes and 54 seconds. This recording was created using www.spokentext.net. So how does your communism help the working class? In the long term, rebuilding a society based on putting people and nature before profits, based on production for human need rather than petty greed, based on what's best for the vast majority rather than the minuscule minority of the super-rich, will benefit the working class. Under capitalism, the working class is subjected to all the exploitation and oppression that those who control the system feel they can get away with. In the shorter term, organizing those who are in favor of the longer-term goal of socialism to work on current issues facing workers directly benefits workers and their families, poor people, and people oppressed due to skin color, nationality, religion, gender, language, etc. We do this by building unity, by keeping the long-term goals in mind, by fighting against anything that divides workers. As a result, workers win more than they would otherwise. In a sense, our goal is to make workers aware of their own power, their own strength. Since fundamental change can only happen if the majority support it, we see revolutions as fundamentally democratic events, expressions of the will of the majority. We work for reforms now and revolution in the future. Only by workers fighting in a unified fashion for their immediate needs will they become aware of their own power, their own ability to determine what direction society goes in. After 1929, in the midst of the Great Depression, America still retained a capitalist system. Although certain socialist policies such as welfare were implemented, no sweeping changes were made in an economic system that could have easily been perceived at the time as a total failure. Why do you think radical changes advocated by the Socialist Party and the CPUSA failed to come about during this time period? First, some of the radical changes advocated by our party and other left-wingers did come about during the 30s, and resulted in some lasting improvements for workers. Social security, unemployment insurance, organizing of mass production workers into unions, increased welfare programs, some government funding for the arts, and many other changes are all things that the CPUSA fought, and still fights for, all of which are under attack by right-wing politicians. These changes were reforms to the system, not revolutionary changes. We see a connection between the fight for reforms and the longer-term revolutionary struggle. Some on the left pose the question as if these were mutually exclusive alternatives. Our party feels that the only way to get to a successful revolution is to win workers and their allies to struggles for reform, leading them to a consciousness of their own power, and to an awareness of the limits placed on real solutions by the capitalist system. A revolution can't be the act of a small conspiracy or a coup, the way right-wing counter-revolutions can be. So our party fought for reforms to bring immediate improvements to workers. Many of those struggles sooner or later resulted in the adoption of programs to meet the needs of people, even though only in limited ways. The economic and social crises of the Depression led many to conclude that a revolutionary transformation of the system was necessary, but never a majority. Many concluded that change was needed and found in the New Deal that some change was possible, but many more were overwhelmed by the crises and expended all their energies on survival, never turning to politics, struggle, or organization. There is no shortcut to revolution, no surefire prescription, and while an economic crisis leads more people to conclude that changing the economic system is necessary, that doesn't automatically lead to creating a revolutionary situation. We have never been among those who thought that the worse the better, that the worse a crisis, the quicker people conclude that revolution is necessary. If that was so, then there would have been revolutions from within in the fascist countries, and fascist governments in Spain and Portugal wouldn't have lasted for 40 years or so. If communists and socialists had found better ways earlier to cooperate, if a less accomplished politician than Roosevelt had been the president, if racism and anti-communism hadn't been so prevalent preventing for the development of greater unity, if the system hadn't successfully made important concessions, if more people had felt that they had exhausted all the political openings in the system, if right-wing movements such as those led by Father Coughlin, Huey Long, and Charles Lindbergh had won less support among masses, if if. For a more in-depth discussion of this issue related to a specific industry, see The Communist Party and the Auto Workers Union by Roger Kieran, issued in paperback by international publishers. For an in-depth discussion of the complexity and sometimes less than obvious difficulties of revolutionary struggle and social transformation in developing revolutionary strategy, see Allende's Chile by Edward Borstein, also from international publishers. There is no shortcut on the path to revolution. We can say in hindsight that more people should have perceived capitalism as a total failure, that it should have been obvious to everyone. But we can't change the reality that millions of people have to come to that conclusion on their own. A party can teach, can participate, can lead, can organize, but it can't make people ready for something they are not ready for. Like a strike, a revolution is a scary, risky undertaking, one that workers don't, can't, and shouldn't take lightly. They have the power to transform society, but only if a majority of workers and their allies are conscious of that power. They have the power to transform society. Desperation isn't enough. Crisis isn't enough. Even social collapse isn't enough. A militant, organized, mature working class, led by an experienced revolutionary party, with well-developed alliances with other major progressive sectors of society, and with a capitalist class which is split, which is not unified around a fascist program of drowning the revolutionary movement in blood. These can lead to a successful revolution. Lenin was quite eloquent about the complexities of a revolutionary situation. See State and Revolution. Communist Party Immediate Program for the Crisis. It is shameful and unacceptable that any child should live in poverty, and that anyone should go hungry, homeless, without medicine, or without a living wage in our nation of such great wealth. Meet the needs of working, unemployed and farm families. Raise the minimum wage to $12 an hour. Unemployment insurance for all workers. Moratorium on farm foreclosures. Labor law reform to remove barriers to workers who want to join a union. No privatization of Social Security. Increase benefits. Universal prescription drug coverage administered by Medicare. Universal healthcare system. Restore social safety net. Welfare reform that includes job training, supports and living wages. Full funding for equal, quality, bilingual public education. No vouchers. Make corporate giants pay. Repeal tax cuts to the rich and corporations. Close corporate tax loopholes. Restitution to workers' pensions. Strong regulation of financial industry. Regulation and public ownership of utilities. Prosecute corporate polluters. Public works program to clean our air, water and land. Aid to cities and states. Federally funded infrastructure repair and social service programs. Foreign policy for peace and justice. No to war with Iraq, and military interventions. Repeal fast track and NAFTA. Stop free trade area of the Americas FTA. No secrecy. Save Saudi agreements. Reject Star Wars and nuclear posture review. Abolish nuclear weapons. End military interventions. Cut military budget and fund human needs. Defend democracy and civil rights. End racial profiling. Repeal the death penalty. Enforce civil rights laws and affirmative action. Repeal USA Patriot Act. Legalization and protection of immigrant greater than rights. Public financing of elections. Overall election law reform including instant runout voting. Youth and Student Bill of Rights. Guarantee youth right to earn, learn and live. This recording was created using Spoken Text, a free online text-to-speech converter. To learn more about Spoken Text visit www.spokentext.net.